What's going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well. This afternoon, I just kind of wanted to give a quick update regarding the Bitcoin chart. Over the past couple days, we've literally just been going sideways. Pretty much, I've identified this descending channel here, which is actually a bullish pattern. We did have a breakout this morning, but we're now back below this line of resistance here. That's usually not a good sign, but given what I'm seeing on the charts, now I've seen this new potential ascending channel. Now I noticed here we have a touch point here. One, two, three, four touch points. So we have five on the bottom. We got one, uh, two, three touch points on the top. So I really do think this is an area here. Now I have this dotted yellow line here because that's my buy and entry price. That's literally where I bought in. So I'm currently in a long position, a little bit in profit here. This is my risk to reward kind of strategy. I'm doing a 1.5 risk to reward ratio. I have my stop loss pretty much below 2900, pretty much at 2913, pretty much just below this low wick here. Um, so that's kind of like my strategy. It's well above support. I mean, sorry, my stop loss is well below key support areas that have kind of proven true. We do have a high, then we have a higher high, and we have a low, then a higher low. Now, the one caveat here is this downward sloping resistance line that is pretty persistent. As you can see on this is the 37-minute time frame. This is more so a precursor to the 1 hour. So there's a couple of things that are concerning me, which is this downward sloping resistance, and also we do have this 9 and 21 exponential moving average cross. That's actually usually a bearish sign, but ultimately, as long as we're prices above this upward sloping line of support, I can't really kind of call it quits here. Also, on more significant time frames, I'd say like an hourly time frame, we do have kind of like it is kind of a I would kind of consider this an inverted hammer candle. Usually these are bullish instances. That's usually a sign of a price pivot. So and it's also a higher low from this huge, I would say, bullish hammer uh, pattern candle, which is also another bullish sign. Also, this did occur at the 0.382 Fibonacci level, and as you can see on a macro level, we have kind of like the intraday level at the yellow, and then we have a macro level at the orange Fibonacci's. So we had a bounce off the 0.618, and we also had a bounce off the 0.382 on intraday and on macro. So ultimately, I do feel that this area of 29K has consistently held as support, and we are actually creating higher lows, believe it or not, from a macro level. As you can see, we have a low and we have a higher low right here. So we are good to go. Ultimately, we do have more, so a lot of resistance in this area. That's hence why we're getting choppy price action. Now, obviously, we do have moments here that will determine the trend. It's very close. I'm going to hide this actually just so you can kind of see it better. But ultimately, we do need to break this resistance line. We've been playing around near it, which is kind of a good sign, I would say that. But ultimately, yes, I'm going to look at this. I'm actually testing out different RSIs. This is actually an augmented RSI that kind of shows the trend color, also shows like, pretty much capitulation events here. So it's got like a buy signal right here, you got a sell signal right here. So you got like a buy signal right here, you got a sell signal right there. Now, um, from I'm still testing this RSI out, but nonetheless, ultimately I do like seeing the overall trend. Uh, as long as we're able to sustain this trend, we'll be still good to go from a bullish perspective. But yes, my favorite indicator is a market liberator B. So as it stands here, we do have some negative money flow, but what I personally like seeing here is the momentum waves go from larger to smaller. So this is rather intriguing to me. If I were to go to say like the 2 hour time frame, we do have a sell signal. We're kind of recovering from that. Um, but ultimately it is pretty low. I'd rather see sell signals below these white lines. These are usually like this would have been an ideal spot, for example, to open up a short position. And if I were to just zoom out here, and you would have that opportunity to just hold for lower lows. But ultimately, actually, I wanted to show you something. So this was over the weekend. I was pretty busy during the weekend, so I didn't want to really kind of create anything. But yeah, I noticed this diamond pattern here. These are kind of hard to track if you're not really well versed in pattern trading, but these actually have a very interesting ratio. It's literally very close to 50-50, but when they break out, they're pretty clear in terms of the overall kind of trajectory. Um, so this diamond pattern kind of showed itself over the weekend, and it was rather unfortunate because we ended up breaking to the downside. I would say something around there. So these diamond patterns, they usually do end up breaking to the downside, and how you measure them is you go from the very top to the very bottom. Here you get the average candle close, get a break, and as you can see, we actually went lower. There was a capitulation event, but as you can see over time, it was just down. So I had a initial concept on a similar time frame here, but ultimately when we wick down to the downside, this downward sloping resistance line just became that much more valid and interesting. So I didn't really catch it, but realistically, price was eventually going to come back down at that level. Okay, so but to go back to my initial thesis was kind of like it was more so like a falling wedge, um, where I was kind of using this area, and you could still say like it's still valid, where you broke out, but then you broke back down, and then you broke back out, and then now you're back testing it twice. So it's technically still valid, but given with the new data that we have seen, like this descending channel is still valid as well, which is interesting because we actually did hit the price target right there to the T, and you'll see this happen often where you break down and then you kind of tap the 0.618 as resistance and you come back down. And that's literally what happened. And then now we created a higher low at the 0.382 Fibonacci level. And at this time, if price can actually sustain above this actual level, I would turn it from, as it stands, because it's kind of already been broken, I would kind of consider this area as an interesting line to keep an eye on. At this time, I ultimately am bullish. As you can see on my trends here, on the 4 hour, still bullish. On the daily, we're still bullish. And on the weekly, we are still bullish. So uh, I really do feel that over time, we are just going to gradually grind to the upside. There's a saying, it's a staircase going up, but it's an elevator going down in stocks and in crypto and stuff like that. So it's easier for price to just come down as opposed to, gradually break to the upside. So it's going to take some time, but I just wanted to give you an update. We have identified this ascending channel, which is ultimately bearish. These are bearish in nature. These do tend to kind of bounce within the borders of this area until they confirm a break of support and then continue down. And usually they come back down to the very bottom Okay, so we're not out of the woods yet. This could be a choppy market, but ultimately, I am kind of looking for continuation to the upside and a bounce between this particular range, and when price decides to break up or break down, because actually, it's not 100% that the rising channels break down. It's in the bulls. I mean, I'm sorry, it's in the bears' favor in terms of overall percentages. Ascending channels are bearish. They lean bearish. It's like a 65 to 35 type of ratio. Um, yeah, that's kind of like how it is. It's probabilities. You have to prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and probabilities. If they're on your side, you take your shots. But ultimately, that's what I'm looking at in regards to Bitcoin. As you can see, we're getting a buy signal on the 37-minute time frame. Still 25 minutes to go, so this could easily get invalidated. But as you can see, price is trying to establish a base here. I honestly would say that pretty much 29,350. This area 29.3 has been kind of solidified as a base because we are kind of seeing like this bowling event here in terms of price action. I do ultimately feel that that this is the scenario that we're going to be dealing with for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Yeah, if you haven't already, please like this video and share it with your friends if you think this is valuable. But overall, in terms of the Fibonacci's, just in closing, I will say the yellow Fibonacci's, from a macro perspective, we're looking at a 31.177 upside opportunity from a short-term perspective. Um, I'm not too sure what will come first, a break out of this ascending channel or a pump all the way up to the 1618. I have no idea. But ultimately, if we do kind of ratchet up and we've already solidified the 0.382 as support, can we solidify the 0.618 as support and kind of move our way up the chain, so to speak, until we hit the 1618? But usually when we hit the 1618, it's pretty drastic. It's a pretty drastic move to the downside usually. I'm kind of playing some Nostradamus stuff right here, but I would ultimately expect price to come up here somewhere and then come all the way back down here and maybe even all the way back down here in worst case scenario. So, I would hold off on spot buys at these levels, but we're not even there yet. Anyway, take care. Have a good day. Bye bye.